Cameron Sabet, you are standing there around the corner, I see. Patient perspectives on DD2025 contracture treatments, sentiment analysis of social media. Please come forward because you have to connect your machine and hopefully it works in one go, but often it doesn't. So please. Oh, you have it there.
Yes,
Great.
I do.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So this is Patient Perspectives on Dupuytren's Contracture Treatments, a nationwide sentiment analysis of social media comments. So this work reflects a collaborative effort across a lot of institutions across the United States. Of note, it's not international in this sense, but where do I click to move forward, or do I just suggest the prompt?
There, yeah, that's the
Here?
Yeah.
Click on this.
Oh, fantastic, thank you. Yeah, so just as a background, Dupuytren's contracture affects approximately 5% of the population, depending on the study, 5% for the United States at least, and especially older adults of Northern European descent. And then specifically, as we know, surgery, collagenase injections, and aponeurotomy are really the three distinct primary clinical pathways. And what remains less well understood is how patients perceive these treatments beyond the objective outcomes. Traditional metrics often overlook the nuanced patient experience, and this is where social media offers a unique lens. They may have the equivalent of white coat syndrome, in hypertension screenings, but for opinions. So if you as a physician ask the patient, how did this go? The patient is potentially likely to be biased in their response one way or another. And really, when they go home and they're anonymous on social media, that's when they're the truest. And so we wanted to go to the truest point and see what do they really think about this. So here are methods. You may be wondering how we did that. So we spent a long time culling through a lot of social media comments, and we culled it from Reddit, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and Quora, and we spanned nearly 2 decades. We really wanted the full gamut, and we even tracked it across decades as well. And we processed them using this Vader sentiment analysis, just this coding term. And we used natural language processing-based thematic clustering. So we broke it down into different themes. And those themes were surgical experience, recovery, pain management, and physical therapy, emotional well-being, and social support. We really wanted to bring it from the quantitative and qualitative aspects. And statistical comparisons leveraged the chi-square and the Kolmogorov-Smirnov tests. So what were our results? Well, these were our, we had some distinct thematic patterns here, as you can see. And that's pretty small to see, but the top is surgery, the middle is aponeurotomy, and the bottom is collagenase injection. So surgical experience, surgical comments overwhelmingly emphasized the procedure itself, appearing in approximately 67% of posts. And there was a significant focus on physical therapy as well. And then collagenase discussions centered on pain management, while aponeurotomy were more evenly spread across the themes. And interestingly, mentions of family support were minimal across all the comments, particularly in aponeurotomy. So then we also had sentiment distributions, and so they skewed positive across all the treatments, as this is a fairly well-tolerated procedure, but with notable differences. So surgery elicited the highest density of strongly positive sentiment, especially regarding the surgical experience and rehabilitation phases. And then collagenase showed a greater variability with strong positive sentiment in pain management, but also a wider spread across lower sentiment ranges, as we can see there. And aponeurotomy had a somewhat flatter, more moderate sentiment distribution. Finally, we had pairwise sentiment comparisons. And so these showed significant differences, most notably between collagenase and aponeurotomy, with a p-value that is extremely low, p equals 0.00016, and between surgery and collagenase, p equals 0.0152. And theme-specific analyses highlighted that physical therapy discussions differed significantly between collagenase and aponeurotomy groups. But most other thematic comparisons were not statistically distinct. So ultimately, what does this mean? So these findings really mean that, well, I want to skip over this because I kind of went over that. We have the p-values that were significant, and then let's go here. So for the discussion, what does this mean for you? Well, while all three treatments are generally well received, patient priorities really differ. It comes back to the patient ultimately because you're treating the patient and as a person, not a patient, as was discussed earlier. And surgery is associated with a strong positive sentiment, but really carries a focus on procedural and rehabilitation experiences, at least from the patient side. And then collagenase patients experience pain management, reflecting perhaps its minimally invasive nature, but variable discomfort. And then aponeurotomy appears somewhat balanced, but a little less emotionally polarized. And so, especially for collagenase injections, people potentially with a fear of needle stick or any of those other considerations, that's something to think about as well. So yeah, finally, clinical implications. So what does this mean for practice? First, we have to consider shared decision-making, and it needs to move beyond recurrence statistics and just complication rates objectively. Patients really value those different aspects. And whether it's minimizing pain, reducing recovery time, or ensuring procedural confidence. And yeah, finally, we have limitations and future directions. So limitations inherent to any social media analysis, and these have been published in the Journal of the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and many other places, similar social media analyses for like robotic versus manual, total knee arthroplasty, a bunch of others. But really the underlying limitation is selection bias, lack of clinical verification, and variable capture of sentiment with regard to the timeline of the intervention, as well as you can't have propensity score matching done because a lot of these are anonymous comments. So you can't say everyone of one race said this and so we can match them. So it becomes really difficult, especially with diverse patient demographics in the United States, because this was an English-only search. So yeah, that's it. And I wanted to thank all my collaborators as well. These are absolutely fantastic people, especially Dr. Blazar, and and everyone at Brigham and Women's, Georgetown University, where I'm a medical student, and the patients whose public reflections helped shape this analysis.
Social media is a fascinating aspect, as Anna brought up and your research showed. Not a criticism, but just a quick question. How come Facebook wasn't included?
Yeah, and we can keep going there, right? We can do Facebook. We can even go into deep internet things like 4chan and really, really deep things. So yeah, we did want to make sure that there was some level of cohesion and some level of methodological rigor, because if we expanded it too much, then it would get to like, various video game chats where they're talking about their mom's aponeurotomy, You can go as deep as you want. So we wanted to maintain some level of quality there, and at least Reddit offered very substantive comments as well.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
just out of interest, did you need ethical permission to do this? To take all the information off the social media site? Some patients weren't expecting you to do that.
Yeah, so since this was a publicly, and I understand the concern, thank you very much. This was not sensitive patient information that we peeled away from the patient chart, and this was all publicly, so we treated it as a public database because anyone can really read something that you post on social media. So we took it as an ethical permission, if not an obligation to future patients, to understand these sentiments. That's a very important question, though. Thank you.
Just a reminder that anything you post publicly is for everyone to read.
Can and will be used against you.
Yes, but I just want to add that ethical committees.
Yes.
Ethical committees are not only there because to protect the patient in the use of their material, but also for the correct use of the material. So a study onset always needs to have ethical approval.
Yes. I appreciate it. Yeah, we were going based on the standards that were published in the Journal of the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and other, top journals, Arthroplasty Today. So I was following those methodologies, and I confirmed it with the Harvard faculty, but I would love to additionally.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I think we have to move on.
Yes. Thank you very much.